Welcome to It's Happening. My name is Jared, and in today's episode, we are going to take a brief walk through history to try and show uh, a lot of the lies on how history has been manipulated to begin with. Before I get started, I don't have my crew with me. I want to check and make sure this live is working. I need to make sure it's working here. Okay, I think it's working. I can't tell. I need my crew here with me to know for sure. But for some reason, it's showing that I'm offline. Dang it. Um, Sorry guys. Like I said, I'm still really new to all of this and not understanding why the live is not actually showing right now. Maybe it is. Okay, if it is, I apologize. Again, I don't have my crew with me. So today is a walkthrough of history of the big lie on the party switch. But before we get into that, I'm going to go ahead and bring y'all to our sponsors of the show. And I say sponsors, it is our things that we do. And this time I'm going to do it a little bit different and show you guys my wife's website because she helps sponsor these shows. Don't forget to like this video, comment on this video, subscribe, share it with your friends and family, tag it with your friends and family. We do a lot of giveaways. We encourage people to come follow our TikTok, our Twitter, and our Rumble, and all of our social media, but mainly the Rumble is where I do the live giveaways, but I do them from different platforms at different times, if that makes sense. So anyways, if you would share this with your friends and family, I will be doing a giveaway very soon. It's a surprise giveaway. And so far, everybody has loved how we do those. So saying that, I want to make sure. All right. Now it's working on my end. All right. I'm getting better at learning this tech stuff. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. Check this out. If you want the best handmade tumblers, we will even personalize them for you. We can do car freshies. She can do earrings. She can do shirts. She can do anything. If you have some kind of event where you need a bunch of them made, we can also do that. Let me go ahead and show you the website. The website has stuff that we already have made, but keep in mind, again, we do personalize them for you still. So this here is my wife's website, our website, and it's vandystreet.com. One second. And all you gotta do is scroll down. Yes, it's a very patriotic thing because her following is a big patriotic thing, but we will do things outside of that as well. As you can see, the 80s rock tumblers. These are very popular. All of these are. And if you have an idea for a design, then like I said, all you can do is message us, comment below, and then let's get working on the design for you and your company. But yeah, she is amazing. And we use both of our AI platforms that y'all hear me talk about a lot to create these images. So that gives us we don't have to buy images anymore. We also teach people how to they themselves can make these images and then turn around and learn how to generate more money with them, whether it's tumblers or whether it's something else. There's multiple ways. Okay. And now let's move on to the next uh sponsor, and that is the things that I am doing. As you guys know, I have been holding back on announcing these products. I really wanted to go through and test them first, and so far they have been absolutely amazing, guys. It works very well, and I want to show you guys these, and I will be doing a giveaway on that as well at some point here. Hold on one second. So check this out. I'm going to pull up our new product line, and both of the links that will be in the comments for my wife's website. It's easy. It's vandystreet.com. For this next one, I'm going to show you. The link will be in the comments, but both of them will be as well. So let me pull this up, and then we'll get right into our walkthrough of history. and taking a look at facts. Okay, so these products right here, as most of you know, I have L2, L3, L4, L5, all out bulging. I have spurs. I have a horrible problem sleeping. And this stuff has, and keeping energy and stuff like that. And these products, yes, as most of you know, I've gone through many companies. But our whole goal in doing that was to find the one that works the best for me and the amount of stuff that I'm dealing with. Because if it works for me, I'm very, very positive it would work for you as well. So these are mouthwashes. We've got an ageless mouthwash, and this is one of the newer ones. And the reviews on this stuff has been absolutely amazing. And it does it, and the way it works is the important thing. And I can't go too deep into it. This is just an opening to show you guys. The links will be in the comments. If you have any questions, all you have to do is ask me any questions, and I'll get right back with you. You can, we also have samples, and this is also an opportunity if you're looking for a way to start making more money from home. Okay, saying that, now let's jump into the show. The history, the true history, because a lot of people like to manipulate the things. The first thing I'm going to do is pull up something and read it to y'all. Then I'm going to show you guys a video. And if y'all want to, leave some comments and let's talk back and forth. As always, my perception or the way I perceive things could be wrong, and I have no issue saying that. So if you see something that I don't see, you just let me know. I've got my things over here, and I'll try my best to keep up with both and talk back and forth with you guys. Okay, here we go. Let's pull this one up. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to learn how to get better at all this stuff, live streaming stuff. But man, I really enjoy doing what I'm doing. And if for some of y'all that don't know, I am looking for a co-host to create another channel. If this is something you may be interested in doing, let's talk, because I'm ready to build something where we have multiple different opinions and things like that going on. All right. So the myth of the Republican and Democrat Party switch. Let's see here. Okay. When faced with the sobering reality that Democrat, is it not sharing for y'all? Hold on, guys. Is it sharing? Okay, good. I don't know if it's sharing live or not. There it goes. Finally. Sorry about that. I must have a lag somewhere. Let me go back to where I was. All right. All right. So when faced with the sobering reality, the Democrats supported slavery, started the Civil War. When the abolitionist Republican Party won the presidency, established the Ku Klux Klan to brutalize newly freed slaves and keep them from voting a post-civil rights movement. Modern day liberals reflexively perpetuate rather pernicious myth that the racist Southern Democrats of the 1950s and 1960s became Republicans, leading the so-called switch to the Patriots. This is as ridiculous. This is as ridiculous as it is easily debunked. Sorry about that. My Southern accent makes it harder. And I've always been a terrible reader out loud, so I've been working on that as well, guys. And don't forget to hit the like button, comment below, guys. All right. Now, here are some facts. The Republican Party, of course, was founded in 1848 with the abolition of slavery at its core mission. Almost immediately after its second presidential candidate, Abraham Lincoln, won in 1860. Democrat-controlled Southern states seceded on the assumption that Lincoln would destroy their slave-based economies. Sorry about that. Once the Civil War ended, the newly founded I'm sorry, my phone keeps going off. Next time I go live on here, I'm gonna have my worker with me, so I don't have to keep looking back and forth. Sorry, guys. All right. Almost immediately after 1960, Democrat-controlled Southern states seceded on the assumption that Lincoln would destroy their slave-based economies. Once the Civil War ended, the newly freed slaves, as expected, flocked to the Republican Party. The Democrat control of the South from Reconstruction until the Civil Rights era was near total. In 1960, Democrats held every Senate seat, south of the Mason Dixie line. And in the 13 states that made up the Confederacy a century earlier, Democrats held a staggering 117 to 8 advantage in the House of Representatives. The Democrat Party was so strong in the South that those 117 House members made up a full 41% Democrats, 283 to 153 advantage in the chamber. Likewise, through the 50s and 60s, Democratic governors and overwhelmingly Democratic state legislators controlled the South, which steadfastly pushed for civil rights in contrast to President Dwight Eisenhower, openly praised school segregation and Brown v. Board versus Education decision, federalized Arkansas's National Guard troops to Little Rock to continue non-black students after the Democratic Governor Orval Fabius threatened to keep them out of previously all-white schools. Again, folks, this is the Democrats, not the Republicans. Eisenhower was a phenomenally popular war hero when he was elected in 1952, and even though only one Republican had ever won any Southern states in the Electoral College, Hoover, in 1928, Eisenhower began to make inroads for the Republican Party, winning Florida, Texas, Virginia, and Tennessee. In this landslide victory, 4 years later, Eisenhower picked up Louisiana and Kentucky. His personal appeal, though, didn't transcend the Democrat Party's hold of the South. When he left office in 1961, that hold was arguably stronger than it had been in decades. As Southern Democrats clung to traditional segregation, though the rest of the country was changing, the push for civil rights had begun. After the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, a strong proponent of civil rights in the late 1960s, Southern Democrat Lyndon B. Johnson saw it as his mission to pass the Civil Rights Act to a tribute to Kennedy, who had proposed a bill 5 months before he was killed. Democrats in the Senate, however, filibustered it. Let's hear that again. They themselves tried to stop it. They filibustered it. So in 1964, the bill came up again and it passed over the strenuous objections of the Southern Democrats. 80% of House Republicans voted for the measure, compared with the just 61% of Democrats, while 82% of the Republicans in the Senate supported it, compared to the 69 of the Democrats. Nearly all of the opposition was naturally in the South, which was still nearly unanimously Democratic and unanimously resistant to the changing country. One thing that most assuredly didn't change, though, was a party affiliation. A total of 21 Democrats in the Senate opposed to civil rights. Only one of them, Dixiecrat Strom Thurmond, ever became a Republican. That's one. The rest, including Al Gore Sr. and Robert Byrd, a former exalted Cyclops in the Ku Klux Klan, remain Democrats until the day they die. And let's not forget that Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and all of them have praised Robert Byrd. That's very recently. So again, enough of nonsense with this party switch. It never happened. Okay, where was I? I'm sorry. Now let's go down a little bit more. Moreover, as those 20 lifelong Democrats retired, their Senate seats remained in Democrat hands for several decades afterwards. So too did the overwhelming majority of the House seats in the South until 1994, when a Republican wave election swept the GOP into control of the House for the first time since 1952. So let that sink in, all you college-educated people who keep trying to say this big party switch happened in the 1960s. I mean, it proves, the timeline proves, all the way up until the 90s, and even up to this day, the Democrat Party is who it has always been. They only learned how to change their goal to reach their change their plan to reach their end goal. And that's exactly what they are doing. They are very good at playing the long game and manipulating people and changing history to fit their narratives. Just remember that as you go through all this stuff and you talk to these Democrats who just can't seem to understand facts, especially the ones that go to these very, very prestigious colleges, which is supposed to be our higher education, but don't seem to understand any of this because this is all facts. No matter how they try and spin it, this is the truth. Okay. So where was that? From there you go, I got that part. Okay, from there, Republicans gradually built their support in the South until two more wave elections, 2010 and 2014, gave them overwhelming majorities one day. That's how long. I mean, so you see what I mean here? It's all propaganda. It's all manipulation. Democrat politicians and the media, the elites, they know their voters will not research this stuff. They won't do it. And they won't listen to us because they've been taught their whole lives that we're bigots, racist, this and that. And they don't even realize that they are voting for the very people who they claim they don't want in office. They try and put all of that onto us without ever taking 5 minutes to look at history and to also look at the present. So, I mean, it's clear that it's always been the Democrats, that the Democrat Party has never changed. They only changed how they go about reaching their end goal, which is complete control, which would to have our country look more like China. If this was a sudden switch to the Republican Party from old Democrat segregationists, it sure took a hell of a long time. The reality is that it didn't. After the 1964 election, the first after the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the opportune time for the racist Democrat voters to abandon the party in favor of Republicans, Democrats still held a 102-20 House majority in the states. Sorry, guys, my back. In the states that had once been part of the Confederacy. In 1960, remember that advantage was 117-8, a pickup of 12 seats, half of them in Alabama, is hardly the massive shift one would expect if racist voters suddenly abandoned the Democrat Party in favor of the GOP. So I'm going to stop right there, guys. So, I mean, for those of you who pay attention or don't pay attention, is this teaching you anything? Leave me a comment below. Or do you think this is propaganda and you refuse to look? Because I have more I can show you, but I really encourage y'all to start thinking for yourselves and start looking for yourselves because it's all there. Even though the Democrat machine works very hard to bury it, the evidence is all right there in front of your face. Okay, so let's get there. We're down here. So how did this myth of a sudden switch get started? It rooted in an equally pernicious myth. I know I destroy some words, guys. Sorry. I'll get better at it. Pernicious myth of the supposedly racist Southern South of Richard Nixon's 1968 presidential campaign, which was accused of surreptitiously exploiting the innate racism of white Southern voters. Even before that, though, modern day Democrats point to the 1964 presidential campaign of the Republican Barry Goldwater, who refused to back the 1964 Civil Rights Act as proof that the GOP was actively courting racist Southern voters. After all, they argue, Goldwater only won 6 states, his home state of Arizona and 5 states in the Deep South. His states' rights platform had to be coded for the racist return to the segregated society, right? Hardly. Goldwater was actually very supportive of civil rights for Black Americans, for voting for the 1957 and 1960 Civil Rights Act, and even helping to found Arizona's chapter of the NAACP. His opposition to the 1964 Act was not at all rooted in racism, but rather in a belief that it allowed the federal government to infringe on a state's sovereignty. See, they don't teach you that in history anymore. They don't teach you exactly why things happen. Or, yeah, they did. They just manipulate it, right? Because I guarantee you, y'all know none of this, unless most of my normal viewers know this stuff. So, and it's not a shot at any of you guys. All right. So, you know what? Here is the campaign video that ended up launching Lyndon B. Johnson as he played it off of a Republican. I'll read it first. The Lyndon B. Johnson campaign pounced on Goldwater's position during the height of the 1964 campaign, ran an ad titled Confessions of a Republican, which rather nonsensically tied Goldwater to the Ku Klux Klan, which, remember, is a Democrat organization. So let's see the ad, and then I'll read on a little bit more.
I certainly don't feel guilty about being a Republican. I've always been a Republican. My father is, his father was. The whole family is a Republican family. I voted for Dwight Eisenhower the first time I ever voted. I voted for Nixon the last time. But when we come to Senator Goldwater, now it seems to me we're up against a very different kind of a man. This man scares me. Now, maybe I'm wrong. A friend of mine has said to me, listen, just because a man sounds a little irresponsible during a campaign doesn't mean he's going to act irresponsibly. You know that theory that the White House makes the man. I don't buy that. Sometimes I wish I'd been at that convention in San Francisco. I mean, I wish I'd been a delegate. I really do, because I would have fought, you know? And I wouldn't have worried so much about party unity, because if you unite behind a man you don't believe in, it's a lie. I mean, when the head of the Ku Klux Klan, when all these weird groups come out in favor of the candidate of my party, either they're not Republicans or I'm not. I thought about just not voting in this election, just staying home, but you can't do that, because that's saying you don't care who wins, and I do care. I think my party made a bad mistake in San Francisco, and I'm going to have to vote against that mistake on the 3rd of November.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
And that's the ad that Johnson used that started this whole nonsense of a Republican, of the racist Dixiecrat switch to our party. This is what the Marxist Democrats, and back then the commie Democrats, started capitalizing on, and they started coming up with a new plan. And they have been doing it for a very, very long time. And now they have taken over the education. They're taking over the legal system. They're taking over every aspect of our country. And then they start freaking manipulating the younger generation. And no wonder we are where we are. Okay, so let's go down a little bit more. I'll read a little bit more, and then I'm going to pull up a video where Dinesh D'Souza will even talk about it a little bit. Okay, so this ad helped Johnson win the biggest landslide since 1920. For the first time showed Democrats that accusing Republicans of being racist, even with absolutely no evidence to back it up, was a potent political weapon. So there you go. That's exactly where the Democrats learned to start using that against Republicans. It would not be the last time they used it either, now is it? 4 years later, facing declining popularity ratings and strong primary challenges from Eugene McCarthy and Robert Kennedy, Johnson decided to run for re-election as protest over the Vietnam War and race riots following the death of Martin Luther King raged in the streets. Republican Richard Nixon, the former vice president, launched a campaign based on promises of restoring law and order, with the Southerner Johnson out of the race and Minnesota native Hubert Humphrey as his opponent. Nixon saw an opportunity to win Southern states that Goldwater had, not through racism, but through aggressive campaigning in an area of the country Republicans had previously written off. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there on that part, and then I'm going to pull up the video on Dinesh D'Souza. Guys, if y'all want to go back and read the rest of that article, go to, I tell you what, I will put the link to this article in the comments after I finish the video. Okay, guys? All right, so I'm going to pull up one more video on it, and y'all got, if y'all want to leave some comments, if y'all think that I am trying to manipulate something, or if you have anything to add on all this party switch nonsense, go ahead and let me know below. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, and comment, share with your friends and family. It helps us support. We are trying very hard to not be beholden to anybody else but to you guys, and to bring you content that you enjoy. So let's move on to the next video.
Doctrine of the big switch, the idea that the two parties switched sides, on the face of it is a little bit strange. It's sort of like if someone were to say to you, you know, there was this date in the 1960s when the cops all became robbers and the robbers all became cops. You'd be like, really? How could that happen? It makes no sense. But what gives this big switch doctrine some plausibility is it is rooted on two facts that do need to be explained. Blacks, who were predominantly Republican, did move over to the Democratic Party, and the South, which was predominantly Democratic, did largely move into the Republican camp. So I want to make two videos, this one and another one, addressing these two issues. And in this one, I'm going to talk about the black switch. Now, the assumption is that blacks switched over to the Republican Party in the 1960s, and they did so because they realized that the Republican Party was the racist party. So naturally, blacks, who can be assumed to understand their own interests, moved over to the friendly Democratic camp. The Democrats, by this point, supposedly had abandoned racism, become the party of civil rights. Now, the only problem with this morality tale is the following. The actual black switch was not in the 1960s. It was in the 1930s. And you can check this, Google this for yourself. It's very easy to check. In 1932, the Republican candidate Herbert Hoover got the vast majority of the black vote, over 2/3. But by 1936, the Democratic candidate, the incumbent president FDR, got well over 2/3, in fact, over 70% of the black vote. This switch occurred in 4 years. Now, obviously, at that time, the Democratic Party was the party of segregation and the Ku Klux Klan. FDR was cutting all kinds of deals with the racists in his own party, blocking lynching laws, excluding blacks even from New Deal programs. But against the backdrop of the Depression, even the crumbs that FDR offered were enough to convince blacks to move over to the Democratic Party. The point is, the black switch had nothing to do with civil rights. It had to do with the economic benefits of the New Deal. As we go into the 40s, 50s, and 60s, Republicans do a little better with sometimes and a little worse with others. They do better with Eisenhower. They do worse with Goldwater. They do a little better with Nixon. But the real switch occurred in the 1930s and was not over civil rights. So the first prong of the liberal argument is a lie. And in a separate video, I'll talk about why the South moved out of the Democratic Party into the Republican camp. That's the second bogus leg of the big switch. This is the...
I'm going to pause there for a second, guys. If you're still watching, can you comment below if the screen share is working? Because it's, like I said, I'm here by myself today, and I can't tell without my my partner here who knows this stuff better than I do. Okay, and I'm going to go right back on and finish this video.
Yeah, second of my two videos on the big switch. In the other one, I talked about why blacks moved from the Republican to the Democratic Party, pointed out that this occurred not in the 1960s and not over civil rights, but in the 1930s. Blacks, in a sense, were seduced or bought off by the economic promises of the New Deal. Now I'm going to talk about why the South became Republican. The argument from the left is it's because the racist Dixiecrats moved over into the Republican Party. In other words, the Republican Party got all the racists from the Democratic Party. Now, this argument is empirically false. By Dixiecrats, we mean two things. One, the members of the actual Dixiecrat party that broke off in the 1940s and established a kind of racist wing led by Strom Thurmond. And we also refer to all the congressmen and senators and governors who opposed and voted against, in many cases, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act. Now, if you count the actual Dixiecrats, a couple of hundred of them, and ask how many of those guys moved into the Republican camp, the answer is precisely 2. One in the Senate, Strom Thurmond himself, and one in the House, a guy named Watson. This is the crushing, irrefutable fact that completely destroys the idea that the racist Dixiecrats became Republicans. And so what the historians on the left, who are cover-up artists, scam artists, if you will, try to do is they try to obfuscate these waters. They redefine Dixiecrats. If you look, for example, at the historian Kevin Kruse, he'll talk about people who weren't Dixiecrats at all. He'll say, let's look at Jesse Helms, let's look at John Tower, let's look at Trent Lott. Those guys weren't Dixiecrats. And so if you look at Kruse's threads, he goes, well, let's talk about the cousin of this Dixiecrat and the wife of that Dixiecrat. So the attempt here is ultimately to muddy the waters by moving away from the simple fact that the Dixiecrats stayed and remained and died and were lionized in the Democratic Party. The reason the South became Republican, well, first of all, this occurred in the Reagan years and then in the 1990s. What was Reagan's platform? Anti-communism, pro-life, family values, free markets, patriotism. So as the Democrats moved left on these issues, it turned out that non-racist conservatives in the South began to move over into the Republican Party. The simple truth is, as the South became less racist, it became more Republican.
And that is the truth. Those are the facts from the beginning of this video to the very end. So next time you're having a conversation with somebody who's trying to convince you that there was some party switch, go ahead and send them this video. Guys, if y'all want to be entered into our next giveaway for our surprise giveaway, we give away we do the giveaways for handmade tumblers. We do giveaways for our products that we sell. And we also do giveaways for books that like Glenn Beck's book or 1984. This time it's a surprise giveaway. All you have to do is be following this channel, comment below giveaway, and you'll be entered. If you go and follow my other social media, you'll get an entry for every social media you follow as well. But I'll need to know it's you somehow in case your names are different from this app to the other, if you understand what I mean. Thank you guys so much for giving us the support y'all have already given us. Again, we are looking for somebody who may want to be a co-host for a completely new show. I am also doing a show, I'm starting a channel on Rumble called Entrepreneur Hour, where I will help entrepreneurs for free to come on and give them up to an hour to solely promote themselves, what they do, their brand, and not charge them anything. The goal would be for me is hopefully that page would build and I would get more views. I simply want to do this because for the past 10 to 12 years, I know how hard it is to be a small business and find people that'll help push your name out there. And as of right now, between my wife and I, we have about 135,000 eyeballs to get you in front of, and we are growing every day. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.